Now, there's a few things I want to dive into with this video. One of them is being Ophiuchus, which is the 13th Zodiac sign, and I want to dip into that because of the connection that it has with Uranus moving into Gemini. And also I want to just quickly dip into the transpersonal planets, Pluto, Neptune and Uranus, and the way that they have shifted sign and the sequence that they have moved sign over the last year, and the connection that they have with other planets, and how that is going to be giving us a bigger picture of the energy moving forward. Now, all I ask of you is to keep an open mind, because that is what this is all about. But you know, often we don't know what the truth is until we know what isn't. And the challenge isn't finding the truth, because the truth is all around us if only we have the means to see it. But the real challenge lies that when standing in the light of your truth, are you willing to accept it? Hello and welcome everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Now, back in July, early July, I had the intention to do a video with Uranus moving into Gemini. However, every time I tried to attempt it, I kept feeling blocked. And I know by now that when I feel that and I feel like I can't move with it, it's usually because there's something I'm not seeing and there's a different message that I'm supposed to be relaying. And so I sat with it for a little while to sort of see what was coming up. And you know, throughout my life, I've always paid attention to synchronicities and symbols and numbers, and it's the way I sort of get my information and navigate the world. And something that kept coming up for me was every time I kept thinking of Uranus and Gemini and that energy, I kept getting the Scorpio energy, that scorpionic energy. And with that, I kept thinking of also Ophiuchus. Now, for anyone who's not familiar with Ophiuchus, is known as the forgotten 13th Zodiac sign. It's in the constellation. It sits between Sagittarius and Scorpius. And it's, even though it's there, it's not integrated into astrology. And fair enough, because a lot of astrologers, you know, if it would completely throw them off, because astrology is all about cycles and symmetry. So part of astrology is looking back and looking at cycles and patterns and the way things play out. And so when we think about the chart and we have equal divisions, you know, it makes it very easy to see in cycles. But nevertheless, it's still there, which means it has got a purpose, it has got meaning, and there is definitely something symbolic about it. And it clicked for me why Ophiuchus kept coming up, because one thing I was talking about in my video for Uranus moving into Gemini is that there's going to be a lot of hidden knowledge and information that's going to be coming up. Things that have been forgotten, things that have been hidden. And we're going to be open to a whole new world of things that maybe we couldn't have even fathomed. And Ophiuchus is forgotten, in a way, information. Because it is there, and like I said, it is symbolic, and I'm going to go into why that is and what we can take from it. But before I jump into Ophiuchus and all about that and the interesting information there, I want to quickly go into what's been going on with the transpersonal planets. Now, we know Uranus has moved into Gemini in July. And it's going to stay there for the next 7-8 years. Neptune ingressed into Aries at the end of March, so that was the second one to move. And Pluto was the first one to ingress into a new sign, which was at the beginning of the year, and that was that's now staying in Aquarius, you know, until 2043. So you know, they're big shifts when the transpersonal planets shift sign. It's huge because it's a very slow moving planet, but it means that there's a big shift in collective, and And also we feel it personally as well. It's a lot slower personally, but collectively we feel it, and we know that there's big changes coming. I want to show you something about the planets and the way they've moved. So Pluto moving first, Neptune moving second, and Uranus moving third. And we've got all the planets, and these are they're in order from the sun. So planets in order from the sun. And what's happened is Pluto now being the furthest away, and it's known that the planet that's furthest away from the sun, so the further the planet is away from the sun, the more powerful it is. And that's because it represents the duality and the polarity of it. So it's that intensity, right? So like anything, if we go to the extreme of something, we're going to feel it that much more. Now, the connection between Pluto and Mercury. Now, Pluto in Greek mythology is Hades, and Hades rules the underworld. And that's all about death and rebirth, transformation, hidden knowledge as well, and power struggles. And the connection that there is to Mercury, Mercury being Hermes, the messenger for the gods. Hermes was, no one was just allowed to go to the underworld. There'd be consequences, but Hermes was the only being who could travel from the different realms and come down to the underworld without suffering any consequences. He is the bridging of the conscious and the unconscious. So Hermes works as the intermediary between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier with the Gemini energy being connected with Scorpio, which is why it kept coming up for me, because Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, and Gemini is seen as a sign that can be quite superficial. It's about communication, of course, and knowledge and details, and it can also be a trickster energy. It's very flirty, it's very playful. And Scorpio is seen as the opposite of very intense. No superficiality there in terms of wanting to experience to the core. But actually they have a lot more in common, because actually what they both want is the same thing. And they both want really to find a sense of self and empowering a sense of self. Now, with Pluto is about extremities. So it's very black and white, all or nothing. And anyone with a lot of scorpionic energy, or someone, you would know this, that it can feel very black and white. It's all or nothing. And with that, it can be very easy to get pulled into power plays and fall into an energy that is very superficial. But with the Gemini energy, that fleeting, that need to constantly explore, is really trying to find the parts of self that has been suppressed or lost, and wanting to be rediscovered. Now, just going back to Pluto for a bit. Now, when we think of the extremities, they're there for a reason, right? Because we're here to understand everything that life encompasses, so the good, the bad. And one of the reasons for that is when you think of the Lucifer, the fallen angel, there's the story of him being banished here on earth as a punishment, but actually it wasn't a punishment, it was a lesson. It was to help him grow, to help him see something for himself. If we don't know what we're choosing, then actually we're not choosing it from the heart, which means we're not embodying that energy, right? So for us to fully choose with our whole heart and to commit to it, it means that we need to know what it is, because we need to embody what that is. We want to be that. And so what that story represents is, one is a fallen angel, that even the most divine beings can fall from grace, which is why it's so important to have self-forgiveness for anything that we feel we sin in life. It's an important part, because it's that self-forgiveness that helps us then understand the difference between the dark and the light. We have the illusion that when we can switch off from everything and we don't have to feel anything, that we are empowered. When really what's happening is we are creating our own living hell. Now, hell isn't something, you know, we often think of hell and we're thinking of Hades ruling the underworld, but really what that is it's presiding over the souls. It's not a physical place of hell. Hell is what we create. We create our own internal mental prison and hell. And so just as we put ourselves in it, we have the power to take ourselves out of it. And this illusion that we can be banished and put somewhere now creates fear. And so if we've sinned or if we've done things we're not proud of, or we have shame through the experiences that we've lived, then we will internally think that we're bad. And if we're bad, then we step into fear and we numb out and we don't want to feel. And it's easier to now just be in that kind of mental prison, dark place that we think is powerful, but actually we're just creating our own hell. And so when we experience and when we know what it feels to be in that, then it means that we can understand more fully with love what it means to be in the light. And it's a choice. We're not what we do. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. It's part of it. It's part of the experience. It's part of now being able to choose and fully choose with our whole heart, with commitment, with integrity, with humility of the light. And that we can fully embody now what it means to be in unconditional love and have compassion. So like in Harry Potter, I'm a big Harry Potter fan, and he goes to Hogwarts school and he has to put on the sorting hat, right? And the sorting hat is going to determine what house he's going to be put into. And Harry really wants to be put into the house of Gryffindor because that was the house that his parents were in. And he really doesn't want to be in the house of Slytherin because Slytherin has been known to produce really bad and evil wizards. So when the sorting hat is on his head, Harry's repeating, not Slytherin, not Slytherin, not Slytherin. And so the sorting hat says, not Slytherin, hey, because he's listening to what Harry's asking for. And he says to Harry, but there is no doubt that you would do great in Slytherin because he has the capabilities. He has what it takes to be a powerful wizard, even if that means for the bad. So later on, Harry, you know, he's constantly struggling with that idea that maybe there's bad in him. And Dumbledore says to him, but you know, the reason he was put into Gryffindor and not Slytherin is because it's not about what abilities we have or what we share with other people. It's about who we choose, who we want to be. And Harry didn't want to choose power. He wanted to choose courage. So just like, Lucifer, the fallen angel, you know, he needed to understand what it meant to really choose to be it in order to really fully embrace and stand in the light of it. So self-healing is paramount, right? It is such an important part of the work that we do here in our growth as well. And if we are not having self-forgiveness, I actually do have a video on the Ho'oponopono prayer, which is a really powerful prayer. It's all about self-forgiveness. So you can check that out if it's something you're interested in. But it's the very first thing that we need to look at when we are starting our healing journey, is knowing that we are worthy of it and that we always have a choice. Now moving on with Neptune being the second sign. Now Neptune, you know, was the second one to move in, and the connection with Venus is that Neptune is a higher octave of Venus. It's all about unconditional love. It's that higher love, that spiritual love. And when we go through, if you think of Pluto, which is destruction, it's death, it's complete shedding of the skin, and we think of a spiritual awakening, that is the moment where we hit ground zero. We start from the bottom, and that's Pluto. And then the second part, which represents Neptune, is kind of the rude awakening of, oh crap, like now this is what I'm starting to uncover. This is what this is the experience of it now. And really seeing the truth. And a lot of people think that Neptune is, being fogged and clouded, but actually it's not that it fogs you, right? Yes, it can, but it's not really about it fogging you to trick you. That's not Neptune. It's more about, first of all, if you're not seeing something, it's usually because you're trying to self-preserve and protect. So you're not ready to see something. But actually Neptune wants you to see the truth. But the truth hurts, right? And Neptune can show you what that is, but it's up to you how you want to take it, how you want to perceive it, and the meaning behind it. So I know for myself that when I had Neptune conjunct my sun and my ascendant, because my sun is conjunct right on my ascendant, it was literally like that. It was a rude awakening. It was all of a sudden now everything I thought was real, and the world I lived in, the reality, the things I thought, I believed, myself, other people, it just didn't feel real anymore. And I questioned everything, and my whole world just literally collapsed before my eyes, and it made me feel really unstable and unsafe, because I didn't trust myself, I didn't trust anyone around me. And there was this real feeling of waking up, but that didn't come right away. At first it was almost like a numbing out, because in a way it was self-preservation. I didn't really want to see everything, right? But it was there. It was there. It was showing me. But it was up to me to allow in what I was willing to see and what I wasn't. And that's why whenever someone is not ready to see a certain truth, we have to allow them, right? Because I know my job, working with clients as a therapist, one of the hardest parts about it is not working out or putting pieces and things together about the client. That's the easy part. The hardest part is knowing what they're ready for and what they're not. Because if you're sharing too much and revealing too much before they're ready, it can actually re-traumatize them. So be gentle with yourself. If there is something you haven't seen, again, don't call yourself stupid or why didn't you see something. It's because you wasn't ready for it. And the same with other people. Sometimes we can think, why on earth are they doing that? Why do they make decisions? Or why are they staying here? Or why are they doing that? But allow them to live their journey and not to push, because it can be really, really painful sometimes if we're not ready to see something. And so Neptune, it does reveal the truth, but it's really us that's fogging it out. And that is going to be in relation to how healed we are. Now, according to Greek cosmology, the universe began with chaos. And from chaos emerged Mother Gaia, Earth, who then gave birth to Uranus. So that's the first union between Earth and sky. And this reflects the cycles of creation and destruction and reminds us of the interplay between harmony, discord, and the potential for transformation. Now, in terms of evolving and spiritual awakening, whether that's collectively or, personally, Uranus is the part where we realize that things have got to change, and we start to question things. And we need that, right? We need that to move forward. And we start to take more of that power back of finding our own truth. And that's the third planet now that has moved into Gemini. And Gemini is all about information. Now, Uranus moving into Gemini, this is going to really shake things up in terms of communication, the way we relate to one another. And there's going to be a lot of information coming through, lots of shocking information, knowledge, and even the way we are in relationships as well. I can see relationships actually really spiking up in terms of long distance relationships, and people really connecting and forming healthy relationships that aren't necessarily always in that physical union, right? And I think these relationships are going to really speak for themselves, that actually, yeah, okay, as humans we want that physical touch and that physical intimacy. It's, you know, that's never going to go away, but it's not going to be the be all and end all to have all the time every day in order to make a relationship last. And I think that these relationships are going to really, the power of these relationships and the way they're held together are going to speak for themselves. Now, you know, Gemini is all about, like I've said, about that fleeting energy and wanting to find aspects of yourself in that. And that's the curiosity that comes in with Gemini, and being curious. And sometimes we don't know why we're curious. We just, and that's the beauty of it, right? That we don't actually know what we're going to find. So I'm a Gemini moon, and when I was younger, I think I must have, can't remember, 7, 8, 9, something like that. And there was this house that wasn't far from where I lived, and it was derelict. No one was in there for quite a while. It didn't belong to anyone. And me and some other kids, we realized that the house at the back, I think it was the door, the window had been left open. And so we all decided to go into this house and explore. And so let's just bypass the whole trespassing bit, shall we? And we went into this house, and as I've walked in, I've seen in the hallway near the door a whole pile of mail, loads and loads of letters. And when I was younger, I had this kind of obsession with opening letters, and I used to just love the idea of receiving mail, because I didn't receive any because I was a child. But I had this obsession, and I had a favourite book when I was younger, and it was called The Jolly Postman. And it was a book, and it was, if anyone is familiar with it, and it's about a postman that goes around to people's houses and he delivers their letters, and you open up. Every page has got an envelope, and you open it up, and it tells you what, you know, whatever it is. I think you probably know where I'm going with this, right? So I see this big pile of mail on the floor, and while all the other kids are running around, I decide to sit down and open every letter. So that's 2 crimes in one day. But anyway, so I opened all this mail, and it wasn't because I was looking for anything, because I wasn't. There was no motivation other than I was curious. I was curious at what I would find, not wanting to find anything in particular. And you know, I did find some things that were not suitable for my eyes, shall I say. But that's what happens when you're curious, right? You don't know what you're going to find, and you have to be prepared for that. And Gemini is also about the twins. It represents, you know, the twins. It also represents in tarot, it's the Lover's card of choice. But again, it's not, you know, choice sometimes when we think of, you know, choice of do I want this or do I want that. It's about integrating and finding ourselves through people, you know, where we can sort of see parts of ourselves in everyone but in no one all at the same time. And that's what it is. It's an integration. So really what Gemini is looking for is that partner that they can continue to grow with. And when they find that partner, then they will be loyal and committed, right? Because we don't look at Gemini's having that energy. But it's not that they don't want to have commitment, they don't want a partner. It's that they need to, and they want to experience that fullness, that real alignment with a partner. And that first means coming into union with self. So some of the other things that we could see coming up with Uranus and Gemini is really things like quantum entanglement and healing, the Mandela effect, time travel, all these things that could kind of blow our mind, right? But nevertheless, they, without a doubt, are going to be coming up. Now let's talk Ophiuchus, the 13th zodiac sign, or the forgotten zodiac sign as it's called, because we haven't integrated it. Now Ophiuchus is also known as the Serpent-bearer, and it's known as the image of a man holding a staff with a snake that is entwined around it. Now Ophiuchus is also known in Greek mythology as Asclepius, if I'm saying that right. And Asclepius was known as the god of medicine. He was the son of Apollo, and he was known to be able to heal people and bring people back from the dead. The Ophiuchus is the constellation between Scorpius and Sagittarius, and it's directly opposite Orion. And Orion, the Orion belt sits between Taurus and Gemini. And these are the only two places where the ecliptic crosses the Milky Way. And these are the celestial pathways or rivers that guide souls to the afterlife. Now, Ophiuchus makes up the same part of the sky as the galactic center, which is a really charged, highly energetic point in the sky. And when planets pass through this part, this represents death, rebirth, and a significant time for healing and renewing. Now, Asclepius, the god of medicine, he was a renowned healer to be able to bring the dead back. And Hades, the ruler of the underworld as we know it, he feared his power because he wouldn't have any souls in his domain to rule over, right? So he went to Zeus, his brother, and told him his concern. And Zeus wanted to balance out the justice and keep everything as it was. So he killed Asclepius and with a thunderbolt, and then put him in the constellation as a mark of the good that he did. Which, interesting, goes back to Pluto, fearing loss of power, right? And, if Ophiuchus was part of the zodiac, also just to give you the dates, Ophiuchus would rule from the 29th of November to the 17th of December. And, it's interesting because I remember talking to someone who was born at the beginning of December. And I remember them saying to me that they wasn't scared of death, but they were scared of how they would die. And looking back now, I can, I didn't see it then, but I can see now, thinking of Ophiuchus, that's exactly what it was. There wasn't a fear of death really, because there was immortality, right? He could bring people back from the dead, and heal people. But how someone dies, the way that Ophiuchus was taken out by Zeus, it would have been shocking, right? And even seen as an injustice. Everything that we need to be healthy and heal is already here on earth, through plants and herbs and understanding the body, natural ways to kind of heal ourselves, especially that it's, Uranus in Gemini has started off with the North Node, Rahu, being in in Pisces, and the axis of Pisces and Virgo, which is, again, Virgo is about natural healing as well, healing the physical body, and Neptune the spiritual, and that axis is a very, very important one. And so this is kind of setting, I think, that motion of where we're going with this as well. Now, we know in astrology there's 4 elements, and that's fire, air, earth and water. Now there's actually 5 elements, and some people say 6. So the 5th one is ether, and ether is known as the spirit. It encompasses all. It's also the unconscious, space, the void. And Aristotle, he theorized that ether did not exist anywhere on earth. It was an element that was exclusive to the heavens, and it's on the galactic center as well. Now some have said 6, that ether is the spirit, and then we have the 6, which is the void. And this is about the 4 directions, so the 4 elements, or the north, south, east, west. And then we have the soul star, and when we're thinking about the Merkaba, and the Merkaba body, which is our energetic body, and we have what's above as well, so the heavens above. So it being up above being the spirit from the heaven, and the void being the crystalline earth underneath us. Now another thing I want to note about this is the number 13, right? Because we know the number 13 holds a very powerful superstition of, in many cultures, being unlucky and creating some kind of chaos or destruction. And there's many reasons for that when you look back, right? But 13 actually for some is lucky. And when we think of the number 13, we think of the number 1, which is leadership, empowerment, beginning, starting new. And number 3 is the number of creation and also of unity, and about balance and divine trinity. It's a very powerful number. And in Egypt, 13 represented the number of the afterlife. So really we could look at number 13 as really representing life, death and resurrection. Now thinking about what 13 represents, and we think about the staff with the snake, it is supposed to be symbolic today of the symbol that's used in medicine. And so you often see it. But the difference is that in the symbol that we use for medicine, it's actually the staff that's connected to Hermes, the messenger of the gods. And it because Hermes carries a staff with 2 snakes that go round, the caduceus, right? And it's 2 snakes, and then it's got wings, because Hermes has got wings. So when you look at the staff that we use today, that symbolizes medicine and health, it's actually connected with Hermes, but it's meant to be in honor of Ophiuchus, because if you look at Hippocrates, the oath, Hippocratic oath, that medical practitioners say, I mean, not so much now, but I know in the UK there are some medical schools that still recite the Hippocratic oath. And if you look at that oath, you look at the original oath, which actually gets omitted out at the beginning. It says, I swear by Apollo the physician, Asclepius, Hygeia, and Panacea, which are the two daughters of Asclepius, that they are my witness. But they used the staff with the 2 snakes, and what that also represents is the Ouroboros, which is cycle of creation and destruction. So if we are not growing, we keep, and it's like karma, we keep repeating the same patterns, then it's basically the Ouroboros is the snake eating its tail. So it can either be destructive, and we can be destructive, keeping ourselves in the same karmic cycle, or where it's the duality, the yin and the yang, and we create union. So it symbolizes life emerging from death and the unity of the universe and interconnectedness as well of all things and wholeness. It's inevitable that throughout our life we will lose people or lose things, but the one thing we don't ever want to lose is ourself. And part of our life journey here is to remember who we are, to come back into union, which is again that Gemini energy of the twins, and becoming back into union with self in order to be able to connect with everything that there is. Now, everything that you would need and want, the truth of anything is there. It's always there within your reach. But again, that's not what's hard to find. What's challenging is when you're confronted with it, when you're standing in the light of it, are you willing to accept it? Thank you for being here with me today and staying till the end. Go well, and I send you so much love. Bye.